Welcome back to the Standard Group Career Fair, the first devolved one, coming live to you from Nakuru County. We are at the Nakuru Athletics Club. And right before we took that break, we were having a very interesting conversation with my panel. And my panelists, like you have already noticed by now, is of very eminent persons who will actually give you a career guide after this particular talk. I believe that even as students will be sitting there, these are Form 4 students who will be sitting their national examinations in a couple of weeks, they'll be well guided, and parents will also be well guided, but na wazazi musipeane pressure. When I grow up, you have to be a doctor, let children decide on what they want to do. But I cut you short, Professor Mwenga, and you are talking about fourth industrial revolution. What exactly is this?
Thank you, Karanja, for that question. Let me go back to the first industrial revolution, which is when the steam engine was invented around 1700. Then thereafter, we had the second industrial revolution when the combustion engine was invented, and then we had mobility, which was enhanced using the vehicular mechanism. Then we have the computer revolution in all its form and shape, including the internet, which is the early 90s. Now we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. What does that mean? You're looking at the physical space coming to miniaturized version, into nanotechnology, small little things that are able to do wonderful things. That is integrated systems and circuits coming together to fuse with the biological systems in order to form a very powerful digital system. For example, facial recognition. What does that mean? You're able to be recognized who you are using your biological makeup, using a digital system, and then you're able to be allowed to get into physical space. That is the fusing I'm talking about. It's with us. You have a microchip in a fridge which is able to understand what is stocked in there and advise you when to restock. That is the reality right now. The fourth industrial revolution is an innovation that has come, and Africa must not be left behind. So our curriculum that we are implementing, whichever career that we are choosing, must be innovative and embrace the fourth industrial revolution tenets. For instance, if you're talking, you want to produce a doctor, a good doctor, out there to be able to use the technology which is there. You have to bring to bear the need to review the curriculum in order to give the skills required to this doctor to address some of the digital challenges which are out there, to take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution technologies which are there in terms of surgery, in terms of diagnostics and everything else. E-medicine, which is one of the software that is used by the doctors to diagnose, has been found to do even better than diagnosis done taking the vital skills and etc. So the fourth industrial revolution, in all its shape and form, must be part and parcel of our curriculum that we are engaging our students with.
Yes, Prof, let's change the course of this conversation and talk about how our learning system has been divided. We know we're having the county governments dealing with elementary learning and vocational learning. Yet we are having the national government dealing with what you'll call, primary, high school. What would you say? Should the two levels of government work, or how should they work to ensure that students, hakuna mtoto wa county, hakuna mtoto wa national government. A child is a child of the government. What should be done from your background as a scholar to ensure that what learners who are at county institutions are getting is the same as learners who are getting from the national government institutions?
Oh, thank you. Very good question. Let me go back to the issue of the CBC. The competence-based curriculum, where we know the early childhood education, which is now called pre-primary 1 and pre-primary 2, is managed at the county level for the first 2 years. Then the next 3 years, we have lower primary, upper primary, lower secondary, upper secondary, and then university. The foundation that you give a child will shape this child into the future. So the devolved system of government where the county government are in charge of giving that foundation must be conscious of this reality and therefore invest in terms of the resources required to ensure that the competence-based education succeeds, because we are talking about critical thinking, collaboration, and using the natural environment to teach these young kids on how to embrace languages, mathematics, and etc. So the county government must invest both in the physical infrastructure, the human capital required, because we are talking about a malleable child at that early age, and that malleable child must be given the best education, the best foundation. So I'm urging the county government to work together with the national government in terms of developing this early infrastructure, or rather early systems that will give the right foundation to the students. Now, coming to the national government, and ensuring that we have a very good transition from at the various levels. The national government has invested in all sectors of the education system, and particularly what you asked. We have government schools which are categorized as national. There are those which are provincial, and then the county schools. All these require to have the right infrastructure. And we already made a decision where all these levels will be taking place. So that must be developed accordingly by the national government. Yes.
That must be developed accordingly by the national government. Asante sana, Prof. Daktari, same question that I've directed to Prof. What kind of, or what nexus would you want to see between the national government and the county governments in terms of much as the different levels of education have been given to different levels of government? We need to have a nexus. We need to have professionals coming out who are professionals from Kenyan learning system. What nexus do you want to see?
Yeah, I think I'd like to say that before, the early years was primarily on its own. They were taking different curricula, but you need to know that with the competency-based system of education right now, the national government is responsible for the curriculum that is being taken at the early years. And that is why, if you saw in the last appointments, there was a PS in charge of early years and basic education. So it means that the government is already alive to the fact that early years is the foundation of learning, and when a child has a poor foundation, it affects other years. Probably that is a step in the right direction, because now we are having a situation where all children, whether the teachers are being paid by the county government or the teachers are being paid by the community, whatever, they are taking the same curriculum. And I think that is key. What needs to be done is in terms of implementation. Can we ensure that all those teachers, we build their capacity to understand what the competency-based curriculum is all about? Then we also need to work around the area of remuneration, so that we have certain counties that are doing very well. With early years, they have very good classrooms. They are remunerating the teachers well, and we have others where the teachers are poorly paid. So if the government is taking the early years seriously, like they already have shown an indication, then we should work on a system where we also work on the payment or the remuneration of teachers at that level. So I think we are in the right direction, although a lot still needs to be done.
We are in the right direction, although a lot still needs to be done. Ken, as I come to you, I'll also again change the direction of the conversation. You have a background, or your background is in IT. You're doing marketing for Tangaza University. Confucius, the great Chinese philosopher, said, choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a single day in your life. We start with your case. How easy was it to settle on, because you studied IT, you're doing marketing, how easy was it? And what chances are there for other people who perhaps may want to venture into something that they did not study in class?
Thank you, Karanja. I was really hoping I would take the previous conversation because I have something to share, but I think I can do that at the end.
Sure.
But with regards to the change from IT, not really a change, but the transition from IT to marketing, I got a niche through digital marketing. Digital marketing is IT, and IT is digital marketing, and marketing, it's digital. Marketing is IT. They converge at the digital marketing. That was actually my entry point. Looking at me as a person, I'm a communicator, let me say by nature. And so it was very easy to combine the skills learned in the university with now working as a marketer. I've worked in radio before, and I actually went in as an IT person, but I could not avoid the microphone. I had to get myself there. So it always works perfectly well. And right now, things are making sense to me, and I believe they're making sense to so many other people. Because we went through several trainings in communication and IT related. And I was wondering, where is all this headed towards? But later on, I came to realize, it can perfectly combine in digital marketing. So I would want to say it's never a waste. Any classroom you go to, it's absolutely never a waste. Once you start finding yourself in the career that you find yourself in, there's always a way that you'll get to combine every skill that you've learned. Just like Tari was saying here, doctors just don't need to treat, they need to communicate. Lawyers don't need just to communicate, they need to learn some technical skills that come in hand. And I think that's really the spirit of entrepreneurship, because when you're starting up like your own business, you might be really the everything in that business before you get resources enough to now bring in more people on board. So it's never a waste. Whichever classroom you get into, whatever program you learn, there's always a way of combining those things as we go into the future. And back to that discussion of what we'd want to see in terms of our children coming up through the CBC program, I would want to say that, like for Tangaza, what we've found to be our winning formula is the collaborations and the partnerships that we make. And actually that is really the foundation of our institution, because it was the coming together of 21 Catholic congregations that they thought, we have a strength in this, we have like a strength in counseling, we have a strength in social transformation, others were having a strength in what we're calling social communication or journalism. And it's for that basis that we thought, we can't do it on our own. We cannot channel, good graduates. So they joined together to form the Tangaza University College, and that's why it's been easy for us to really come up with graduates that are all-rounded, because there are some units that are shared, what we call the common units, and that really has been our winning formula. So what we desire to see is for more and more collaborations, people bringing their energies together. Let's, the pre-primary, let them collaborate with the primary and the secondary and even the universities. Let the universities be involved in the curriculum preparing for the pre-primary and also the primary, so that they can be able to see the end from the beginning. And I think that's really the winning formula.
That's the winning formula. See what from the employer's point of view, we have had people who would be, say, very good, A-class in a certain field. Unfortunately, they did not study for that. We are talking about someone like Ken who did IT. Yes, he has been able to fuse the digital world, the digital space with his marketing. But how open are employers currently in today's world, especially in Kenya? How open are they to take someone who's done a different course and perhaps offer on-job training, and then at the end of the day, they get to have an exemplar or a performer who actually never studied for the course of the job that they advertised for?
There are a lot of opportunities, Karanja, at the workplace, because you see that is when rubber meets the road, and that's when you realize where your passion is. And the advantage is you can always top up with a diploma, postgraduate diploma, and it may not take long, maybe a year or so, maybe a certificate course to just make you understand what it takes. The area that you missed. So it is very possible with good career planning. With good discussions, now you're mature. You are not longer that young person who was just told, go and do this course. You can actually recreate yourself and excel in an area that you have passion with. And the advantage is employers will look at performance. That is what will drive. And if you show passion, they can even sponsor you for specific courses that will help you do better in that area. So that is possible.
That is possible. Yeah. Let's talk about on-job training. How has it changed the performance at workplaces for different companies in corporate Kenya?
It is good. It's only that there are careers that, there are extreme careers that you can't change to. For example, you can't change from being in HR to IT or to be an accountant unless you really go and study and qualify for those courses. So if there are courses that you really have to get a qualification to do, to be certified, then that requires more work, especially from yourself. There are organizations that sponsor their employees to do professional courses, even those ones that are certified. And then there are jobs that you do not need qualifications. You just need a bit of experience, a bit of skill sets, and you can be able to deliver. Yes. So that is open, and people have grown from different careers. Yeah,
people have grown from different careers.
Yes.
Professor, as I come to you, perhaps the question I'll ask you, I'll take you back to the partnerships between, or the fact that the education levels have been split between devolved units and the national government. And when you talk about devolved units, yes, you spoke about the soft issues that needed to be addressed. But we're seeing most of the devolved units in the country focusing on the brick and mortar, focusing on infrastructure, classes, and all that. But you wonder, at what point should these devolved units perhaps engage learners to ensure that, as a learner, even as you're in these institutions or at devolved units, you're engaged, you've been given the software of choosing a career and moving forward, leave alone investing on the brick and mortar?
Thank you, Karanja, for that good question. Let me use the University of Kabianga to express the answer. At the University of Kabianga, we have MOUs with different institutions. We have MOUs with the county government on various collaborations that we are having with them, ranging from IT health all the way to business issues. We have MOUs with internationals, multinationals on issues of training and capacity building. We have MOUs with the industry on issues of collaboration and engaging them in order to absorb our students. And we have MOUs with other partners so that we're able to have our students attached as they continue with the implementation of their curriculum. Now, the issue of brick and mortar and the focus here should be the mind. I could park there. What is the curriculum that we are using to develop the manpower that we need? Is that curriculum agile enough in order to deal with the evolving challenges in the marketplace? The answer is yes. University of Kabianga, we have a mechanism of dealing with that. And that collaboration that we're having with the county government of Kericho, for instance, has enabled us to engage them directly on the ground. We have people from the county government who come and engage our students so that we're able to create a student that is directly fitting into the job market. Now, the brick and mortar will never run away from it, because we still need that infrastructure for purposes of dealing with the physical aspects of training. We talk about like a library. A library right now is on your mobile phone. You can access millions and thousands of resources at the palm of your hand. But you still need the library because there are things that you cannot just replace. That quiet environment, that interaction that you have with the old books there, which may not necessarily be digitized. So the brick and mortar will be with us for a long, long time. Finally, if you're looking at the devolved system, the devolved system should be a system. A system meaning all the interconnectedness are there. We say a system is as strong as its weakest link. So where are the weaknesses in this system we are talking about? That must be addressed so that we have a collaboration that brings out the strongest outcome of this collaboration at the county level and the government level. There are pundits out there who have pointed out areas of strengthening. There are institutions which are in charge of doing research and advising government on areas to address. And those reports should be taken seriously in order to ensure that the system works well. We don't have those weaknesses which will hamper an effective system at the end.
Thank you so much. Daktari, let me come to you, and I'll take you back to what you said earlier about students enrolling at university, wanting to enroll for certain courses, but they don't have the requisite subjects. Say someone wants to enroll for a course that needs geography. They didn't have geography in high school. And by the time these students are making these decisions in secondary schools about, I want to drop geography, I want to do computer studies, I don't want to do all sciences, someone would say that they're usually not guided.
Sure.
That is where the weakling is. How should we go about it moving forward, now that we're having CBC, to ensure that this gap that we are having of students who want to do certain courses and they cannot, that gap has been reduced, or actually, let's say, beyond zero, of students who I want to go for courses that they don't have the requisite subjects for?
Yeah, like I said, right now the mission of CBC is nurturing every learner's potential. And I believe if that is followed by action, then we'll reduce that. And what I'm saying is that let career advisory begin at the primary school level. And you see, for me, I foresee a situation that it may be worse with CBC, because if that is not followed, the CBC has 3 pathways after upper secondary. We have arts, we have sports science, we have STEM. So I'd like you to imagine if you end up in arts and you're interested, for example, in sports science, and you see at that level, it means that you are going to drop certain courses that you should have been taking if you went to a certain path. And that is why the implementation of CBC is key, because it may compound the problem or it may solve it, depending on how that curriculum is implemented. If you end up in STEM at the pathways level, and then you find that that's not your thing, how do you go back? So I believe we need to begin career advisory at the primary school level. Students need to be told very clearly that this is going to have an impact on your life. And you see, when they drop subjects, it's at Form 2, and that is the adolescent stage as well. So we find that without advisory, certain students take course because my friend is doing this, so I'm going with my friend. They do not see the impact that this has later in their life. So the good news is that there are a number of schools right now that are beginning to see that. They have career offices in secondary schools, and they invite experts to speak to their students before they take those courses. I've seen schools that even talk to their students about clusters and how those clusters are worked out. So when that happens, then students go into career choices with some kind of knowledge. And I would still like to insist, cognition is a necessary but not sufficient condition for career choices.
Well, much as we're moving to CBC, we can only know where we are going if we take a look at where we are coming from. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the previous education system that we've been having, and why? With 10 meaning extremely efficient and 1 meaning extremely inefficient.
Maybe I would like to avoid that for the following reasons, because when the 844 started, it was very good. And those who were early 844 went to 844, even knew how to knit. They learned some cookery skills. It was a lot of skill-based. There are certain skills that were learned in 844. But as it went along, it became examination-oriented. If you look at the 844, the summative evaluation of 844 carried out in 2009, the people outside here were saying that now 844 began to produce graduates with very good head knowledge, but very minimal application skills. That happened because we focused on, if you have an A, then you're a very good student, instead of what are you able to do with that A. So we have students with A, yes, but if they cannot think beyond that A. So if we implement, so 844 itself was not bad. The problem started with the implementation and the focus on the examination orientation. And that is the problem that should not get us with the CBC. Let us focus on the skills. It says this is the knowledge, yes, you're supposed to do, this is the knowledge that you need to know, but what are you able to do with this knowledge? So curriculum are as good as their implementation. So 844 has been at 10, 8, and then it's been going downwards. But by the time they were changing the curriculum, the society was saying, no, we have students who have a lot of knowledge, they cannot do anything with it. We have the job market saying that you are giving us students whose skills do not match that in the job market. And therefore, that is why we are moving to competency. Can we now enable learners to have the right knowledge, the skills to go with that knowledge, and the requisite attitudes?
I see Professor Mwenga, I see Kennedy, and of course Siwatom all want to react to your statement. And gentlemen will have that opportunity of reacting to this statement. But we have to take another break. So you have heard from what Daktari has said that our previous education system was actually focusing on what it's putting in our heads and not really the skills. She says that by the time we are starting with 844, it was at 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning extremely efficient, then it dropped to 8. And she hopes that with CBC, perhaps we won't be dropping. All these gentlemen want to respond to that. They shall be responding to it from Nakuru. We take this break again.